The $100 Startup. Welcome to Audiobooks 831. Today, we are exploring the powerful ideas behind the $100 Startup by Chris Guillebeau, a book built around a simple but exciting question. What if you did not need a huge investment, a fancy office, or a massive team to start creating income from something you already know or love? For many people, starting a business feels impossible. They imagine needing thousands of dollars, expensive equipment, employees, a perfect website, and years of experience before they can even begin. But sometimes, that way of thinking becomes the biggest obstacle. The first step does not have to be enormous. It simply has to be real. Imagine waking up one morning and deciding that you are tired of waiting for the perfect opportunity. You look around and ask yourself, what can I actually do that another person would find useful? Maybe you can write. Maybe you can design. Maybe you can teach. Maybe you can repair things. Maybe you understand social media. Maybe you can cook. Maybe you know how to edit videos. Maybe you have experience in something that seems ordinary to you but is valuable to someone else. That last point is important because people often underestimate their own skills. Something that feels easy to you may be difficult for somebody else. And whenever you can solve a real problem for another person, there may be a business opportunity hiding inside that solution. The idea behind a small startup is not necessarily to build a giant company immediately. It can begin with one person, one useful skill, one customer, and one simple offer. You do not always need to know everything before starting. In fact, waiting until you know everything can keep you stuck forever. Think about how people learn to ride a bicycle. They do not study every possible situation before sitting on the bicycle. They start, lose balance, make adjustments, and gradually learn. Business can work the same way. You start with what you know, listen to customers, make improvements, and learn along the way. One of the biggest lessons is that passion alone is not enough. You can love something deeply, but if nobody needs it or is willing to pay for it, turning it into a business can be difficult. A successful small business usually sits somewhere between what you enjoy, what you are good at, and what people actually need. That intersection is powerful. Imagine someone who loves photography. Loving photography is wonderful, but simply saying, "I love taking pictures," is not yet a business. Now imagine that person offers affordable professional photos for small businesses that need better images for their websites and social media. Suddenly, the skill has been connected to a real need. The same person has not necessarily changed who they are. They have simply changed how they present their ability. This is where many beginners get confused. They think business is about creating something complicated. Often, it is about making something useful easier for another person to obtain. You solve a problem, someone pays you. You deliver the result. They are happy. You improve, then you repeat the process. It can be that simple. Of course, real business has challenges. Customers may say no. Your first idea may not work. You may make mistakes. You may price your service incorrectly. You may create something that nobody wants. But failure does not automatically mean that you should quit. Sometimes it simply means that you have received information. If people are not buying, ask why. Maybe the product is unclear. Maybe the price is wrong. Maybe the audience is wrong. Maybe the problem is not important enough. Maybe people want the result, but not the way you are offering it. Instead of taking rejection personally, use it as feedback. This mindset can completely change how you approach business. You are not trying to prove that your first idea is perfect. You are trying to discover what people actually value. This is why starting small can be an advantage. If you spend a huge amount of money before discovering whether people want your product, failure becomes expensive. But if you start with a small investment, you can test your idea without risking everything. You learn before you scale. You discover what works before putting more resources into it. Imagine you want to start an online course. Instead of spending months building a massive course with dozens of lessons, you could first teach a small group of people. Listen to their questions. Notice where they struggle. Then improve the course based on what you learn. This approach is more practical because real customers can teach you things that imagination cannot. The same principle applies to almost any business. Do not spend all your energy creating something in isolation. Get your idea in front of real people. See what happens. Listen carefully. Improve. Repeat. Another important idea is that you do not necessarily need a revolutionary invention. Some people believe that successful businesses must create something nobody has ever seen before. But many successful businesses simply take an existing need and solve it better, faster, cheaper, easier, or in a more enjoyable way. You could offer a familiar service to a specific group of people. You could take an existing product and make it more convenient. You could teach a skill in a simpler way. You could create information for a particular audience. Innovation does not always mean inventing something completely new. Sometimes it means making something existing more useful. Think about your own daily life. What problems do people repeatedly complain about? What tasks do they find annoying? What do they struggle to understand? What do they wish somebody would do for them? These questions can reveal opportunities. Business opportunities are often hidden inside ordinary frustrations. Someone does not have time to edit videos. Someone does not know how to create a website. Someone needs help managing social media. Someone wants to learn a skill. Someone needs better photographs. Someone wants customized products. Someone wants information organized for them. Every problem does not need to become a business, but every business begins with some form of value. And value means making someone's life better in a way they appreciate. Money is simply one way that value gets exchanged. This brings us to another important idea. Customers do not really buy products. They buy outcomes. A person buying a drill may not actually care about the drill. They care about the whole. Someone buying a fitness program may not care about the program itself. They care about becoming healthier or stronger. Someone paying for video editing may not care about the editing process. They care about having a finished video that looks professional. When you understand the desired outcome, your offer becomes stronger. Instead of saying, "I provide video editing," you might communicate the result. "I turn your raw footage into a polished YouTube video ready to publish." The second message is clearer because it focuses on what the customer receives. This is a powerful lesson for anyone starting a business. Do not become obsessed with explaining everything you can do. Focus on explaining what you can do for the customer. People have limited attention. They want to know quickly, can you solve my problem? Can you help me reach my goal? Can you make something easier? Can you save me time? Can you help me earn money? Can you help me avoid a problem? If the answer is yes, your offer has potential. Another mistake beginners make is waiting for confidence. They think successful entrepreneurs started because they were fearless. Usually, confidence grows after action. You begin with uncertainty. You try something, you learn, you get your first customer, you solve the first problem, you make the first sale. And suddenly, you have evidence that your idea can work. That evidence creates confidence. Then you improve again. So confidence does not always come before action. Sometimes action creates confidence. This is why starting with a small experiment can be so powerful. You do not have to announce that you are building $1 million company. You can simply say, "I am going to test this idea with 5 customers." That feels manageable. You can focus on serving those 5 people well. If they are happy, find 10, then 20. Growth can come later. The first objective is learning. And there is something beautiful about small beginnings. A business that starts with 1 customer may eventually serve hundreds or thousands. But you cannot serve 1,000 people before you learn how to serve the first one properly. The first customer teaches you. The second customer teaches you something else. Every interaction gives you information. Over time, you begin to understand your market. You understand what people want. You understand what they will pay for. You understand what they do not care about. You understand which parts of your offer need improvement. That knowledge becomes an asset. Another powerful idea is freedom. For many people, the attraction of entrepreneurship is not simply money. It is control over their time and choices. They want to decide what they work on. They want more flexibility. They want to spend more time with family. They want to travel. They want to escape a job they dislike. They want to build something of their own. But freedom does not automatically appear when you start a business. In the beginning, you may actually work more. You may have more responsibilities. You may have to answer customers, manage finances, market your service, solve problems, and handle tasks you never expected. So the real goal should not simply be, quit my job. The goal should be to build something sustainable that gives you greater control over your life. And that requires thoughtful decisions. Do not build a business that becomes another prison. If you want freedom, design the business around the kind of life you actually want. Maybe you want a small business that provides a comfortable income without requiring a huge team. Maybe you want a company that can grow rapidly. Maybe you want a flexible online business. Maybe you want a local service business. There is no single correct model. The right model depends on your goals. This is where the concept of lifestyle business becomes interesting. A lifestyle business is designed to support the owner's desired lifestyle rather than simply chasing maximum growth. For some people, earning enough money while maintaining freedom is more valuable than building a giant company. They may prefer a smaller business with fewer employees, fewer complications, and more personal control. There is nothing wrong with that. Success should be defined by the life you want to live, not only by the size of your company. So before starting, ask yourself a simple question. What do I actually want this business to give me? Money, freedom, flexibility, creative control, the ability to work from anywhere, more time with family. Once you know the answer, you can build accordingly. A small startup does not have to begin with a complicated business plan. It needs a clear problem, a useful solution, a specific customer, and a simple way to exchange value. Start there. You can learn the rest. The most important thing is to stop treating the beginning as something that must be perfect. Your first version will probably not be perfect. That is okay. Your first offer may change. Your first price may change. Your first customer group may change. Your business name may change. Your methods may change. What matters is that you begin learning from reality, because reality is the best teacher in business. You can spend months watching videos about entrepreneurship, reading books, and planning strategies. Those things can help, but eventually you need to put something in front of a real customer. That is when theory becomes experience, and experience is where real understanding begins. Maybe today you have an idea that you have been thinking about for months. Maybe you have a skill you keep telling yourself you should monetize. Maybe you have been waiting for the right time. Consider this. There may never be a perfect time. There will always be reasons to wait. You may need more money, more knowledge, better equipment, more confidence, more followers, more experience. But sometimes the better approach is to start with what you already have. Use the resources available to you. Start small. Solve one problem. Help one person. Learn from the experience. Then take the next step. You do not need to build the entire staircase today. You only need to take the first step. And that first step can be surprisingly small. It can be a message to a potential customer, a simple offer, a small product, a test service, a first sale, a first piece of content, a first conversation. Small actions create movement. Movement creates information. Information creates better decisions. Better decisions create better results. And over time, those results can become something much bigger than you originally imagined. The journey of entrepreneurship is not about knowing the entire road before you begin. It is about being willing to walk far enough to see the next part of the road. That is the mindset we will carry forward as we continue exploring the ideas behind the $100 startup. Your resources may be limited. Your experience may be limited. Your confidence may be limited. But your ability to learn, adapt, and provide value can grow. And sometimes that is enough to begin. The $100 startup. The most important question when starting a small business is not, how much money do I have? A better question is, what value can I create with what I already have? This shift in thinking can completely change the way you look at entrepreneurship. Many people look at successful businesses and only see the final result. They see the office, the employees, the expensive equipment, the website, the large audience, and the money. What they do not see is the beginning. They do not see the first customer. They do not see the first small payment. They do not see the nights spent learning. They do not see the mistakes. They do not see the uncertainty. Every successful business had a beginning, and many beginnings were much smaller than people imagine. Sometimes a business begins with nothing more than a laptop, a phone, a useful skill, and the willingness to help someone. That is why the idea of starting with a small amount of money is so powerful. It forces you to focus on what really matters. Instead of asking what equipment you can buy, you ask what result you can create. Instead of thinking about a fancy office, you think about customers. Instead of worrying about a perfect logo, you think about solving a problem. The customer does not care how impressive your setup looks if you cannot deliver something useful. People care about results. If you can save someone time, make them money, make their life easier, teach them something, entertain them, or solve a frustrating problem, you are creating value. And value can become income. One of the simplest ways to discover a business idea is to look at your own skills and experiences. What do people usually ask you for help with? Maybe your friends ask you to fix their computers. Maybe people ask you to design things. Maybe you are good at explaining complicated subjects. Maybe you know how to edit videos. Maybe you understand fitness, cooking, photography, writing, marketing, or technology. These abilities can become the foundation of a small business. You do not have to be the world's greatest expert. You simply need to know enough to help someone who knows less than you. A person who is 5 steps ahead can often help someone who is 1 step behind. That is an important realization, because many people disqualify themselves before they even begin. They think, who am I to teach this? But teaching does not require knowing everything. It requires being able to create a useful result for someone else. The next step is identifying the right customer. A common mistake is trying to sell to everyone. When you say your product is for everyone, your message often becomes weak because you are not speaking directly to anyone. A better approach is to choose a specific group. Instead of saying, I help businesses with marketing, you could focus on small restaurants that need better social media content. Instead of saying, I teach English, you could help beginners prepare for job interviews. Instead of saying, I make videos, you could create short promotional videos for local businesses. Specific customers make specific problems easier to understand. And when you understand a problem clearly, your solution becomes easier to communicate. Think about the customer sitting in front of you. What keeps them awake at night? What frustrates them? What wastes their time? What result do they want? What have they already tried? What are they willing to pay to avoid? These questions can reveal more than complicated business theories. Sometimes the best business idea is hidden inside a problem people already complain about. You simply need to pay attention. Another important lesson is that people are more likely to pay for a result than for effort. You may spend 5 hours creating something, but the customer does not necessarily value those 5 hours. They value what those 5 hours produce. If you are a graphic designer, the customer is not buying the hours you spent staring at a screen. They are buying a design that helps them present their business professionally. If you are a video editor, they are buying a finished video. If you are a tutor, they are buying improved understanding. If you are a consultant, they are buying clarity or a solution. This means you should communicate the transformation. What changes after someone works with you, before and after, problem and solution, confusion and clarity, wasted time and saved time, weak presentation and professional presentation. That transformation is where your value becomes visible. Pricing can also become easier when you understand this principle. Beginners often price based only on how long something takes them, but value is not always connected directly to time. Imagine a consultant who solves a problem in 30 minutes because they have 10 years of experience. The customer may be happy to pay for that 30 minutes because the solution saves them weeks of frustration. Expertise can create speed. Speed can create value. Of course, pricing must remain reasonable for your market and your level of experience. But do not automatically assume that your time is the only thing being sold. You are also selling knowledge, skill, convenience, reliability, and results. Another powerful concept is simplicity. When starting a small business, complexity can become your enemy. You may want to create 10 products, Offer 5 services, build a large website, start several social media accounts, and target multiple markets at the same time. This can create confusion. A simpler approach is often stronger. One customer group, one problem, one solution, one clear offer. Start there. Once the system works, you can expand. Think about a restaurant opening for the first time. It would be difficult to serve 50 different types of food with a tiny kitchen and a small team. A focused menu might be easier to manage. The same principle applies to a startup. Focus creates clarity. Clarity creates efficiency. Efficiency creates better customer experiences, and satisfied customers can become your best marketing. This brings us to an important part of small business growth: word of mouth. When someone receives a great result, they may tell another person. That person may become a customer. Then another recommendation follows. A small network can gradually become a larger one. This is why serving your first customers exceptionally well can be more valuable than chasing thousands of strangers immediately. Your first customers are not just buyers. They are teachers, testers, and potential ambassadors. Listen to them. Ask what they liked. Ask what was confusing. Ask what they would change. Pay attention to the words they use when describing their problem. Those words can later help you improve your marketing. Sometimes customers explain your business better than you can. They may say, "You help me save 3 hours every week." That sentence tells you what they value. You can use that insight to improve your offer. Another mistake is believing that marketing means convincing people to buy something they do not need. Good marketing is different. Good marketing helps the right people understand that you can solve a problem they already have. If someone desperately needs video editing and you can provide excellent editing, telling them about your service is not manipulation. It is communication. Your job is to make the value clear. What do you offer? Who is it for? What problem does it solve? What result can they expect? Why should they trust you? These questions form the foundation of a strong offer. Trust is especially important for small businesses. A new customer may not know whether you are reliable. You can build trust by showing examples of your work, sharing useful information, collecting testimonials when appropriate, and communicating professionally. You do not need to pretend to be bigger than you are. In fact, honesty can be an advantage. If you are a one-person business, you can say so. Some customers prefer working directly with the person responsible for the result. Your size is not necessarily a weakness. It can be part of your advantage. Small businesses can often move quickly. They can communicate directly. They can personalize their service. They can experiment without waiting for layers of approval. This flexibility can be valuable. Another lesson is to avoid spending money simply because spending money feels like progress. Buying equipment feels productive. Designing a logo feels productive. Building a complicated website feels productive. But none of these things guarantee customers. Before spending money, ask, will this directly help me serve a customer or generate a sale? If the answer is no, it may not be a priority yet. Start with the essentials. Improve later. Your first goal is not to look successful. Your first goal is to become useful. Once you become useful, growth becomes much easier. Imagine 2 entrepreneurs. One spends 3 months designing a perfect website, but has never spoken to a potential customer. The other spends 1 week creating a simple offer and then talks to 20 potential customers. The second person may learn much more because they are interacting with reality. They discover what people actually want. They hear objections. They understand pricing. They learn which messages work. They can adjust quickly. This is why action beats endless planning. Planning is useful, but planning without testing can become procrastination disguised as productivity. You do not need every answer before beginning. You need enough understanding to take the next step. Then you learn from the result. This approach also helps reduce fear. Instead of thinking, I am starting a business, think, I am running a small experiment. Experiments are easier to accept because failure provides information. If the first idea does not work, you have learned something. Maybe you need a different audience. Maybe the offer needs to change. Maybe the price is wrong. Maybe the problem is not painful enough. Maybe you need a better way to communicate, adjust, and test again. Entrepreneurship becomes a process of learning. One experiment leads to another. Eventually, patterns appear. You discover what customers respond to. You discover what you enjoy. You discover what you are good at. You discover what can actually make money. And then you can focus your energy on the strongest opportunity. There is also an important relationship between freedom and responsibility. A small business can give you more control, but it also means you become responsible for the outcome. Nobody is coming to tell you what to do. You have to make decisions. You have to manage your time. You have to deal with uncertainty. You have to keep learning. That can be uncomfortable, but it can also be empowering. You are building something that belongs to you. And even if the business remains small, the skills you develop can become valuable for the rest of your life. Communication, sales, negotiation, marketing, problem solving, financial awareness, time management, customer service. These skills transfer to almost every career. This is why starting a small business can be valuable even if it does not immediately become your full-time income. You are learning how value moves through the marketplace. You are learning how to turn an ability into an offer. You are learning how to communicate with customers. You are learning how to take responsibility for results. Those lessons are difficult to learn from theory alone. Now imagine you have your first customer. They pay you a small amount. It may not feel like much, but psychologically, something important has happened. Someone you did not know decided that what you could provide was valuable enough to exchange money for. That first sale is evidence. It tells you that your skill can create economic value. From there, you can improve. You can find another customer, then another. You can increase your quality. You can become faster. You can create systems. You can raise your prices when your value and demand justify it. Slowly, the small idea can become a real business. But remember the principle of staying simple. Do not automatically assume bigger is better. More customers can mean more support. More products can mean more complexity. More employees can mean more management. More revenue can sometimes bring more responsibility. Growth should serve your goals, not control them. If your dream is a simple business that gives you freedom, there is no reason to build a complicated company just to impress other people. Decide what enough means for you. How much income do you actually need? How much time do you want to work? What kind of customers do you want? Where do you want to live? What kind of life do you want your business to support? These questions are just as important as financial questions, because money is a tool. It can give you options, but the purpose of those options is to help you live according to your values. The most exciting part of starting small is that you do not have to know where the journey will end. You only need to know what you can do next. Maybe the next step is creating your first offer. Maybe it is speaking to a potential customer. Maybe it is improving your skill. Maybe it is testing a product. Maybe it is making your first sale. Whatever it is, take that step. The future business does not exist yet, but it can begin with something incredibly small. One skill, one problem, one customer, one useful result, and one decision to stop waiting and start. The $100 startup now that you understand the importance of starting small, the next question is, how do you turn a simple idea into something people will actually pay for? This is where many beginners get stuck. They have an idea, but they do not know how to turn that idea into a real offer. The difference between an idea and a business is action. An idea lives inside your mind. A business exists in the real world. It has customers, a product or service, a price, and a way of delivering value. So the goal is to take the idea out of your head and put it in front of people. Start by making your offer incredibly clear. A customer should understand what you do without needing a long explanation. If someone asks, "What do you do?" you should be able to answer in one simple sentence. For example, I help small businesses create professional short videos for social media. That sentence tells people who you help, what you do, and what result you provide. Clarity creates confidence. If your offer is confusing, people may not know whether it is right for them. You might have many skills, but that does not mean you should put all of them into one offer. Sometimes the best business is built around one specific ability. Once you have a clear offer, you need to test whether people actually want it. This is where real conversations become extremely valuable. Talk to potential customers. Ask them about their problems. Listen to what they say. Do not immediately start trying to sell. First, understand. What are they struggling with? What have they already tried? What would make their life easier? What would save them time? What would help them earn more? The answers can help you create a much stronger offer. Imagine someone wants to start a social media management service. Instead of simply saying, "I manage social media," they talk to local businesses and discover that the owners are not mainly worried about posting. Their real problem is that they do not have time to create content consistently. Now the service can be designed around that problem. The business owner does not really want social media management. They want their online presence handled without having to spend hours doing it themselves. Understanding the real problem allows you to sell the outcome rather than the activity. This is a powerful shift. People buy convenience, they buy confidence, they buy time, they buy solutions, they buy progress, they buy peace of mind. Your job is to connect your skill to one of those valuable outcomes. Another important part of building a small business is making the first offer simple. Do not create 10 different packages. Start with one clear option. You can always expand later. A simple offer might include a specific service, a clear result, a delivery time, and a price. The customer should know exactly what they are getting. Simplicity reduces hesitation. When people understand an offer, they can make a decision. When they do not understand it, they usually move on. Pricing can be uncomfortable, especially for beginners. Many people are afraid to charge because they feel they are not experienced enough. They may say, "I am just starting, so I should charge almost nothing." But extremely low prices can create their own problems. They can attract customers who do not value the service, and they may make it difficult for you to deliver high-quality work. Your price should reflect the value you provide, the market, your experience, and the scope of the work. You can start reasonably and increase your price as your skills and results improve. Do not apologize for charging money for useful work. If you solve a real problem, the exchange can benefit both sides. The customer receives value, and you receive income that allows you to continue improving your business. This is the basic economic exchange behind entrepreneurship. Value moves in both directions. Another powerful strategy is to create a business around something people already spend money on. This reduces the need to convince them that the problem exists. If people already pay for design, editing, tutoring, transportation, cleaning, consulting, food, entertainment, or education, there is evidence of demand. You can then find a way to serve a particular group better. You do not need to invent a completely new market. Sometimes entering an existing market with a clear advantage is much easier. Maybe you serve a specific type of customer. Maybe you offer faster delivery. Maybe you provide better communication. Maybe your style is different. Maybe you make the process easier. Small advantages can matter. Your goal is not necessarily to beat everyone. It is to give a particular customer a reason to choose you. This is where personality can become an advantage. People do not always choose the cheapest option. They often choose someone they trust, understand, or enjoy working with. If you communicate clearly and treat people well, that can become part of your competitive advantage. Human connection matters, especially in small businesses. A customer wants to feel that there is a real person behind the service. This is one reason authenticity can be more powerful than pretending to be a huge company. Tell your story when appropriate. Explain why you care about the work. Show your process. Let customers understand who they are dealing with. Trust grows through transparency. Another important lesson is that you should not wait for customers to magically discover you. You have to tell people that your offer exists. This is marketing. Marketing does not have to mean expensive advertising. It can be as simple as talking to people, posting useful content, contacting potential customers, asking for referrals, participating in communities, or demonstrating your work. If you are good at something but nobody knows about it, your skill has limited economic value. Visibility connects your ability to people who need it. But marketing should not become endless self-promotion. One of the strongest forms of marketing is teaching. Share useful information. Solve small problems publicly. Show people what you know. If someone repeatedly receives value from your content, they may begin to trust you. Eventually, when they need the service you offer, you may be one of the first people they think about. This is why creating useful content can be powerful. You are not simply advertising. You are demonstrating competence. Suppose you are a video editor. You could create short posts showing common editing mistakes and how to fix them. Someone watching your content may realize that they need help. Your content becomes a sample of your knowledge. If they decide to hire someone, you are already familiar to them. This can reduce the barrier between stranger and customer. Another important principle is to make buying easy. If someone wants your service, they should know what to do next. Tell them how to contact you. Tell them what information you need. Explain the process. Avoid unnecessary complexity. A confused customer rarely becomes a happy customer. Good businesses reduce friction. From the first message to the final delivery, the customer should understand what is happening. Communication matters enormously here. If you say you will deliver something on Friday, deliver on Friday. If there is a delay, communicate early. If you make a mistake, acknowledge it and fix it. Reliability can become more valuable than flashy marketing. People remember how you made them feel. A customer who receives excellent service may return. They may recommend you. They may buy something else later. One customer can therefore become much more valuable than the first transaction suggests. This is why customer experience matters. Do not focus only on getting the sale. Focus on creating a result that makes the customer happy they chose you. Then ask yourself what could make the experience even better. Could you communicate more clearly? Could you deliver faster? Could you make the process easier? Could you provide an extra useful resource? Small improvements can create a memorable experience. But be careful not to give away so much free work that your business becomes unsustainable. Generosity is good, but boundaries matter. Your time has value. Your goal is to create a business where helping people and earning money support each other. Another lesson is that you should learn to say no. Not every customer is right for you. Some people may demand unreasonable amounts of work. Some may constantly change requirements. Some may refuse to respect your time. If you accept every customer without boundaries, your business can become exhausting. Define what you offer and what you do not offer. Clear boundaries protect quality. They also help customers understand what to expect. This is especially important when your business grows. Systems become valuable because you cannot rely on memory for everything. Write down your process. How does a customer contact you? What information do you collect? How do you deliver the service? How do you receive payment? How do you handle revisions? How do you follow up? Even simple documentation can save time. You do not need complicated software at the beginning. A basic checklist can be enough. The objective is to make repeated tasks easier. As the business develops, systems allow you to spend more time creating value and less time remembering small details. Another important part of financial success is understanding your numbers. Revenue is not the same as profit. If you make money but spend almost all of it, the business may not be healthy. Keep track of what comes in and what goes out. Understand your costs. Avoid unnecessary expenses. Save some money for taxes and unexpected situations according to the rules where you live. A small business becomes much stronger when the owner understands basic financial management. You do not need to become an accountant, but you should know the difference between sales, expenses, profit, and cash flow. Money management is part of entrepreneurship. Another powerful principle is reinvestment. When the business starts generating income, you do not necessarily need to spend all of it immediately. Some money can be used to improve the business. Maybe you need better equipment. Maybe you need software. Maybe you need training. Maybe you need marketing. But reinvestment should be intentional. Do not spend money simply because the business has made money. Ask whether the expense can realistically improve your ability to serve customers or grow. Small businesses can become dangerous when lifestyle expenses rise faster than income. Imagine someone makes their first few $1,000s and immediately increases all their personal expenses. Now they need the business to generate that income every month just to maintain the new lifestyle. Pressure increases. A better approach is to let the business become stable before dramatically increasing personal expenses. Freedom comes from having options, not from creating new financial obligations. This is another reason small businesses can be powerful. They can teach you financial discipline while giving you the opportunity to increase your income. You learn that money is not simply something to earn. It is something to manage. Another major lesson is adaptability. Markets change. Customer preferences change. Technology changes. What works today may not work next year. A successful entrepreneur pays attention. If customers repeatedly ask for something you do not currently offer, that information matters. If a service becomes less valuable because technology changes, you may need to develop another skill. Adaptability does not mean chasing every trend. It means staying aware. Keep learning, keep listening, keep improving. Your business should not be frozen in the exact form in which it began. Your first version is simply the starting point. Over time, you will discover what works best. Maybe you begin offering 5 services and discover that one is far more profitable and enjoyable. You can focus on that one. Maybe you start selling to individuals and discover that small businesses are better customers. You can adjust. Maybe you begin locally and eventually move online. You can adapt. The willingness to change can become one of your greatest assets. But while adapting, do not lose sight of your purpose. Remember why you started. If the business was created to provide freedom, make sure growth does not destroy that freedom. If it was created to provide income, make sure you understand the financial side. If it was created to allow creativity, do not fill your entire schedule with tasks you hate. Build consciously. There is no universal definition of success. One person may want a huge company. Another may want a comfortable income from a small online business. Another may want to work only 4 days a week. Another may want to travel while working remotely. The best business is the one that supports the life you actually want. And that brings us back to the original idea. You do not need to begin with a huge amount of money. You need an ability, a useful offer, a customer, and the courage to test your idea. Start with what you have. Learn from what happens. Improve what does not work. Keep the things that do. Every small business is built through hundreds of decisions. Some will be right, some will be wrong. You will learn from both. The important thing is to stay close to reality, talk to customers, watch the numbers, improve the product, protect your time, manage your money. Keep learning. Do not become so attached to your original idea that you refuse to change it. The goal is not to prove that your first idea was perfect. The goal is to build something genuinely useful. And sometimes the most successful business is not the one that looks impressive from the outside. It is the one that quietly pays its owner well, provides freedom, serves customers honestly, and continues improving year after year. A business like that may never become famous, but it can still change someone's life. And perhaps that is one of the most important lessons from the idea of the $100 startup. You do not have to wait until you have everything. Start with what you have. Start small. Create value. Find someone who needs it. Make the first sale. Learn from the experience. Then take the next step. Because a small beginning is not a weakness. It is simply the beginning. The $100 startup. As we reach the final part of our journey through the ideas inspired by the $100 startup, it is worth stepping back and looking at the bigger picture. Starting a business with limited money is not really about the amount of money in your pocket. It is about learning to recognize opportunities, create value, take action, and build something that gives you greater control over your life. The most important lesson is simple. You do not have to wait until you have everything you think you need. You can begin with what you already have. You may have a skill. You may have knowledge. You may have experience. You may have a hobby that people value. You may have a solution to a problem that many people experience. You may simply have the willingness to learn. These things can become the starting point. The first step is identifying what you can offer. Ask yourself what you know how to do well. Then ask whether someone else has a problem that your ability can solve. This connection between skill and need is where opportunity begins. You do not need to create something revolutionary. You need to create something useful. A simple service can become a business. A small product can become a business. Knowledge can become a business. Creativity can become a business. Even an ordinary skill can become valuable when it is packaged correctly and offered to the right people. But the key is action. An idea sitting in your notebook cannot create income. It needs to be tested in the real world. Talk to potential customers. Ask questions. Listen to their problems. Create a simple offer. Put it in front of people. See what happens. If nobody wants it, do not immediately assume that entrepreneurship does not work. Investigate. Maybe the problem is not important enough. Maybe the customer group is wrong. Maybe your message is unclear. Maybe the price does not make sense. Maybe the solution needs to change. Every response gives you information. Use that information. One of the biggest advantages of starting small is that you can change direction without losing everything. If you invest a huge amount of money before testing an idea, changing direction can be painful. But if you start with limited resources, experimentation becomes easier. You can test, learn, adjust, and test again. This is not weakness. It is smart risk management. You are protecting your resources while searching for what works. Over time, you may discover that the business you imagined at the beginning is not the business you eventually build. That is completely normal. The market teaches you. Customers teach you. Experience teaches you. Your own interests may also change. The important thing is to remain flexible. Do not become emotionally attached to a particular method. Stay committed to the goal of creating value. Another major lesson is that income and freedom are connected, but they are not exactly the same thing. You can earn more money and still have less freedom if your business requires every minute of your day. That is why you should think about the life you want to create. How many hours do you want to work? Where do you want to work? Who do you want to serve? How much income is enough? What activities matter most to you? These questions can help you design a business that supports your life instead of taking it over. A business does not have to become a huge corporation to be successful. A small business that provides a comfortable income, flexibility, and meaningful work can be a tremendous success. Your definition of success belongs to you. Do not allow other people's goals to become your goals. Someone else may dream of building a company with hundreds of employees. You may prefer working alone. Someone else may want millions in revenue. You may want enough income to live comfortably and spend more time with your family. Both goals can be valid. The important thing is knowing what you are actually trying to achieve. Once you know your target, you can make better decisions. You can decide which customers to accept, which projects to reject, how much to charge, and how much you want to grow. This is where saying no becomes important. Not every opportunity is a good opportunity. A project can bring money but still be wrong for your business. A customer can pay well but create enormous stress. A product can generate sales but require so much support that it becomes exhausting. Learn to evaluate opportunities based on the whole picture. Money matters, but so do time, energy, reputation, and freedom. A healthy business balances these things. Another important lesson is that your first customers are incredibly valuable. They are not just sources of revenue. They help you understand what people want. They show you where your offer needs improvement. They reveal questions you had never considered. They may provide testimonials. They may recommend you to others. Treat those early customers with respect. Listen carefully. Deliver what you promised. Communicate clearly. If you make a mistake, fix it. If you do excellent work, make it repeatable. This is how reputation begins. Reputation can become one of your most valuable assets because people prefer to buy from someone they trust. Over time, satisfied customers can create a cycle. Good service creates happy customers. Happy customers create referrals. Referrals create new customers. New customers create more experience. More experience improves your service. Better service creates more trust, and the cycle continues. This is much more sustainable than constantly chasing strangers. Another powerful lesson is that marketing is simply communication. You have to let people know what you can do for them. You can create useful content. You can demonstrate your skills. You can share examples of your work. You can speak directly to potential customers. You can build relationships. You can ask satisfied customers for referrals. You do not need a giant advertising budget to begin. Sometimes the most effective marketing is simply being useful in public. Teach something. Solve a problem. Answer a question. Show your expertise. People who find your information helpful may become interested in what else you can offer. This is especially powerful in the digital world, where one useful piece of content can reach many people. But remember that attention is not the same as income. Views, followers, likes, and comments can be encouraging, but a business ultimately needs value exchange. You need an offer that people understand and want. Your audience should know how to move from learning about you to working with you. That transition should feel natural, not forced. Another lesson worth remembering is that money should be managed carefully. Making a sale is exciting, but revenue is not the same as profit. You need to understand your expenses. You need to know how much it costs to deliver your product or service. You need to track what you earn and what you spend. Avoid unnecessary expenses in the beginning. You do not need every expensive tool that promises to make you successful. Use what is necessary. Upgrade when there is a real reason. Every expense should have a purpose. Ask whether it helps you serve customers better, save time, or grow the business. If it does not, perhaps it can wait. This simple discipline can protect a small business from financial pressure. Reinvestment can be useful, but it should be strategic. If a piece of equipment genuinely improves your work, it may be worth buying. If training can help you develop a valuable skill, it may be worth investing in. If marketing can reliably bring customers, it may make sense. But do not spend money simply to feel like you are becoming more professional. Success is not created by appearances. It is created by value. The same principle applies to branding. A beautiful logo can be useful, but it cannot rescue a weak product. A professional website can help, but it cannot replace customer demand. Fancy packaging can attract attention, but the product still needs to deliver. Build the foundation first. Make the business useful. Then improve the presentation. Another important lesson is continuous improvement. Once something works, do not assume it can never be improved. Ask customers what they like. Ask what they would change. Study your own process. Look for unnecessary steps. Find ways to improve quality. Find ways to save time. Find ways to make the customer experience easier. Small improvements can compound. A business that becomes slightly better every month can become dramatically better over several years. This is why consistency matters. You do not need to transform everything overnight. Improve one thing at a time. The same principle applies to your own skills. Your business can only grow as much as you are willing to grow with it. Learn communication. Learn sales. Learn basic finance. Learn marketing. Learn customer service. Learn technology. Learn how to manage your time. You do not need to master everything, but you should become comfortable learning. The world changes quickly. The ability to learn may be more valuable than any single skill. Another powerful idea is resilience. There will be moments when things do not work. A customer may cancel. A product may fail. A month may be slow. An advertisement may perform badly. A competitor may appear. Technology may change. These moments can feel like proof that you should quit, but sometimes they are simply part of the process. Take a step back. Look at the facts. What exactly went wrong? What can you control? What can you change? What did you learn? Then make your next decision. Do not allow one bad result to become your entire story. Every entrepreneur eventually faces uncertainty. The difference is how they respond to it. Some people freeze. Others learn and adapt. You cannot control every external event, but you can control your response. You can keep your expenses reasonable. You can maintain relationships with customers. You can keep developing skills. You can experiment with new ideas. You can remain flexible. These habits create resilience, and resilience gives you time. Time gives you opportunities to learn. This is why starting small can be so powerful. You are not betting everything on one idea. You are creating a process of discovery. You are learning what works. You are learning what does not. You are learning what customers value. You are learning what kind of work you enjoy. You are learning how to turn skills into income. And perhaps most importantly, you are learning to take responsibility for your future. There is no guarantee that every small business will become successful, but the process can still be valuable. You develop skills that remain with you. You become more comfortable with uncertainty. You learn how to communicate. You learn how to solve problems. You learn how to negotiate. You learn how to manage money. You learn how to create something from nothing. These lessons can change the way you think about work and opportunity. Perhaps the most inspiring part of this entire idea is that your starting point does not determine your final destination. You may begin with limited money. You may have no audience. You may have no employees. You may have no fancy equipment. You may not even feel confident. But if you can create value and continue learning, you can move forward. Start where you are. Use what you have. Help someone. Then help another person. Improve your offer. Build trust. Protect your money. Protect your time. Keep going. Eventually, what began as a small experiment can become a meaningful source of income and freedom. And if it does not work exactly as planned, you will still have gained knowledge and experience that can guide your next attempt. So if you have been waiting for the perfect moment, remember that perfect moments are rare. There will always be another reason to wait. You may think you need more money, more knowledge, more confidence, more followers, better equipment. But sometimes the best way to get those things is to begin. Start with a small step. Create something useful. Put it in front of real people. Listen to the response. Improve. Repeat. You do not need to build the entire business today. You only need to build the next piece. One customer, one product, one service, one useful result, one small win, then another. That is how something small becomes something real. And that is the heart of the $100 startup philosophy. You do not need a fortune to begin creating value. You need initiative, usefulness, courage, and the willingness to learn. Money can help, but money is not the only resource. Your knowledge is a resource. Your time is a resource. Your creativity is a resource. Your relationships are a resource. Your experience is a resource. Your ability to solve problems is a resource. Learn to use those resources wisely. In the end, entrepreneurship is not only about making money. It is about creating something that did not exist before and making it useful to another person. It is about taking an idea and turning it into action. It is about discovering what you are capable of doing. And sometimes, that journey can change much more than your bank account. It can change the way you see yourself. You stop thinking, I need someone to give me an opportunity. You start thinking, what opportunity can I create? You stop asking, when will someone hire me? You start asking, what problem can I solve? You stop waiting for permission. You begin taking responsibility. And that shift in thinking can be worth more than the first dollar you ever earn. Thank you for listening to this original educational audiobook-style summary inspired by the $100 startup on Audiobooks 831. Remember, a small beginning is still a beginning. You do not need to know the entire journey. Take the next step, create value, learn from the result, and keep moving forward. Disclaimer. This video is an original educational summary inspired by the $100 startup by Chris Guillebeau. It is not the original audiobook and does not reproduce or replace the copyrighted text of the book. All rights to the original work belong to the respective copyright holder.